Hey guys, it's Stove Talk with Matt. After all the different ways we've looked at to heat your house, all the different types of stoves, from rocket mass to 10,000-pound Russian stoves, the best way is this. This is without a doubt the best way. This is the Spanish Gloria. We'll look also at the Korean Ondol underfloor heating system. The Spanish just say, fuck it. You want to heat your house? Light it on fire. I mean, we'll have fun to start with it for a minute or two, guys. And then I'll show you the technicals of the Ondol, tell you more about the Gloria. That's all. See that hole? He just loads wood like under the house. The Spanish say, "Fuck it. Light if you want to stay warm. You don't need no iron stove. Light the house on fire." It's the channels are literally part of the house. These mother effers light the house on fire, and it's the best heating system that exists. All right, look at this dude in Spain. Just light the damn house on fire. Just dig a hole under the house and light it and light it up. He's laughing all the way to the bank. You and me are getting oil deliveries and getting shafted. Getting one oil delivery I had was $600. There's a cat there. Look at that. The cat's staying warm. This guy's laughing all the way to the bank. Just dig a damn hole under your house and light it up. Oh, do I have to have a disclaimer, guys? Well, this doesn't work in a regular home. The channels under the home are very safe and insulated. Oh yeah. I guess I should. You never know, right? Look at that. Just dig a damn tunnel under. Get Hogan's Heroes under your house, and they'll dig tunnels, and you just light it up. This is no joke, guys. This is the best heating system there is. The Korean Ondol is close. It stems from the old Roman systems from thousands and thousands of years ago. Actually, the Korean Ondol, they did that on their own, maybe even before the Romans. And what the Gloria system here in Spain, the chimney is through the center of the house, which I think is better than the Korean Ondol. The chimney stays warm through the center of the house, so the draft is probably always maintained, even when this thing isn't lit for a few days. A warm chimney through the center of the house drafts, 5 times better than a cold chimney, 10 times better than a colder chimney on the outside of the house. In the U.S. especially, all these brick chimneys are on the outside side of the house. And until they heat up, they can smoke back at you. They create a lot of creosote. If they get cold, the fire goes down a bit. So the Gloria system in Spain, they build. Of course, you build this chimney system first. You build the house around it. You couldn't really do it well. If you had unlimited money, you could do it after the fact. But this is done before the house is built. The house is built around it. And basically, I think unlike the Korean Ondol system, where the channels spread out, I think they basically have just one or two main channels, and then it funnels into just a centralized chimney. And the chimney pulls probably like a rocket stove through the middle of the house. They never get, well, you saw some smoke that came up in that first image. Upon lighting it, why it's cold, that's a heck of a damper. Look at that jury-rigged piece of shit damper. Now let's look at that damper. Look at that. Looks like he's putting it into wood like a telephone pole or something. This guy's, when the fire's completely out, he would put the damper in. Then whatever coals are underneath are going to smolder and stay warm for 4 or 5 hours. This also blocks, this is the chimney. Actually, I said the other Gloria system I looked at, and there isn't a lot of information about the Gloria. I said it was through the house. And I definitely looked at one that was through the house. This exits, I believe, outside the house. So it's going to be like the Korean Ondol, has the chance of going colder and has a chance of not drafting as well. I guess the Gloria systems are not all through the center of the house, but that would be much better. Puts the damper in so cold air doesn't come back down the chimney and get back in the house. Also, it keeps the heat, once the fire is out and there's no risk of carbon monoxide, the coals will smolder and stay hot for a few more hours. But you have to know what you're doing. You put that damper in and block it off too soon while it's still lit, you'll carbon monoxide your whole family out. This is somebody else in Spain that has the Gloria system. I remember that other guy kind of was like in a hole in his house. This is more on the outside of the house, a little door. Maybe this is the picture that we saw What's he? Don't burn plastic, dude. That ain't environmentally friendly. Al Gore would be so upset. Yeah, this was the image we saw to start. So it's not drafting properly yet. It's coming out and smoking up the side. Yeah, let the house burn. F it. Well, I guarantee though, once that draft starts properly and that chimney heats up, especially if it's through his house, see it now. It starts sucking in like a rocket stove. Once everything gets hot, it's not going to come out anymore. Upon lighting it, he smokes his house up. But his wife's up there in that bedroom right there trying to sleep, and smoke's pouring in her bedroom. Like, shut the damn window. Now it's pulling. It just pulls like a rocket stove, especially if that chimney is insulated and it's through the center of the house. I mean, if he insulated that chimney, like 2 layers of brick with mud in between, oh my gosh. You don't even, he would say, these people in Spain would say, we're so interested in this incredible draft, and all the stove tinkerers like me and you and the rocket stove tinkerers with this incredible draft and pull and suck. These guys were like, I don't want it to draft that hard. I don't want to lose the heat up the chimney in 2 seconds. I want it to move a little bit slower so it gets into the thermal mass. I mean, stove tinkerers like me and you, rocket stove assholes, are always looking for more suck, and so like, I don't want it to move fast. It moving slowly or at the proper speed radiates the most heat into the thermal mass, into his tiles. And I've watched this video before. It's like 1 or 2 rooms are underneath the channels, and they get hot. Tiles, the terracotta. You don't want to ever put clay or terracotta tile right in fire. Even though they make these flues, you think the fire is not to touch them directly. But if they do heat up very well, if you keep them just about 6 or 7 feet away from the fire, and the really hot gas is moving along the terracotta, that heats up well. A lot of these homes, they have a tile floor. They're not going to put carpet down and block the heat, and then the heat will radiate throughout the entire house. So let's look at the Korean Ondol. We can get a better look at how they do it. There are a lot of instructional videos on the Korean Ondol system. This is the Korean underfloor heating system called Ondol. Probably not pronouncing it right, of course, but I think it's just Ondol. I'll show you other videos and show you some clips of it being made, guys. Here it's under construction, of course. The floor, the living room floor and the kitchen floor would be built on top of this with tile and a layer of clay, and we'll look at some being built. So this is, of course, you have to then live, or your living room would be 3-4 feet up off the ground, steps to come up from the outside, because that's laid on top of this. It's too hard to excavate, especially they've been doing this almost 5,000 years, to excavate all that earth. You build this, then you live on top of it. So there would definitely have to be steps up from the outside into these rooms. And let me see if I can find a good under construction video. Oh, by the way, that top right is probably where it's just like a regular fireplace, or that entrance like the Gloria, where they feed it, and the hot gases and smoke wind through all the channels. And as they wind through the channels, they heat up, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 pounds of thermal mass, which is the brick, and then exit via chimney on the other side of the house. Top right's probably not the chimney area. It could be, but it looks like it's where you would feed the fire. I'm not sure. We'll look at some under construction now. Okay, here's an animation. They're loading the wood on the left. The living area is above. I'll show you a better animation of how the whole thing works. The firewood comes over that first channel or lip, comes up kind of over a circular lip, and then enters the channels. Of course, the floor, or the living room floor, and the tile and the layers of stone or whatever, and all that other thermal mass is placed on top of these channels. Each channel wall supports the floor like a joist. How they get them, the idea is, of course, to get the heat to go evenly in all the channels. That's probably the hardest thing, the real, the art of doing it properly. So the heat doesn't just go down 1 or 2 channels and the other channels stay cold. That would be the toughest part. And then, at the end, the design is, it goes up, it slopes up, it drops down towards the right. It's probably an ash clean out. There's probably a door somewhere where you get in there once a year and shovel out ash. then a 1 or 2 foot horizontal run to the chimney, and it goes up the chimney and out. The chimney in an Ondol system is never, well, I can't say never. I've watched 30 or 40 videos on this. I've always seen it constructed outside the house. So you load the wood outside the house, similar to the Gloria, runs under the entire house, or at least a section of the house, and the chimney's on the other side. Now, we'll talk about potential draft issues. Having the chimney inside the house is always so much better. We'll talk about how do they make sure the draft gets going properly. We'll look at that later, guys. Obviously, for 5,000 years, they know what they're doing. This picture works. I've looked at about 10 graphics or pictures as to how the Ondol system works, and this is consistent with all of them. So if you follow my cursor here off to the right, the wood is loaded in here. This is the firebox here. There's usually a tight squeeze of some kind, not real tight, of course, but it's not as tight as a rocket stove port or for a batch box, but the principle may be similar. It's not a few inches or anything like that. It might, the Ondol firebox is very large, can load 4 or 5 big pieces of wood in. So this might be just 1 foot by 1 foot squeeze into this section. The where you load the fire has to be far below where the floor is. So you either build your floor up 6 feet in the air or 5 feet in the air for the living room up here, or you have to dig down. You actually have to dig a hole. And we'll look at some of those examples. I've seen that where somebody's actually dug down 4 feet to create the firebox low. It has to start low. This is probably an ash clean out. Once a year, there's got to be a door somewhere. You get in here, loads of ash would collect here. That's probably the primary purpose. There's usually a little bit larger lip here. It's not a squeeze off, but usually a larger rounded section here that goes up a little bit further in terms of the other graphics. Then the hot gases, flame, etc., smoke travels under the floor. This would be somebody's living room. And the slope, the slope goes up a bit. So this area might be 2 feet tall. And as it goes along, this area here would be just 1.5 feet or 1 foot. Some of the other graphics show it kind of squeezes off and gets smoke. That actually creates speed with the flow of gases. The lip on this side is usually a little bit more enhanced. I'll show you another image, guys. They call this it's called like a wind blocker, this lip. Then it drops down into another hole, which would be another ash clean out, in my opinion, because there's no way to get your shovel or clean ash out through this section. It's going to be what it's going to be. I don't think there's any way to get in there, maybe with modern devices, but thousands of years ago, you had to have the 2 ways to trap ash. That's probably what this is doing with these drop downs. If this clogs under the house, you're done. I mean, you got to dig you got to dig the whole thing up. It would be an absolute nightmare. So they probably really went out of their way to collect ash very efficiently on either side. And the ash collections and the dip down here, this is the chimney up, of course, is the ash clean outs are always inside the house, inside the wall. The ash clean out after the firebox. Here it shows the firebox is outside the house, which some Ondols are like that. Others, I'll show you, the firebox is inside the house. Nevertheless, the design would be the same. And you would have tile here, and you would have large square tiles. I'll show you that. Tons and tons of thermal mass to heat up. And this system, just like the Russian stoves, even when it's very, very cold, probably lit for 4, 5, 6 logs twice a day, just burning an hour and a half and an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half at night. The radiant heat, you wouldn't have to burn it all day long. I have an iron wood stove, and I mean, these systems are so much better, guys. I mean, I just have to keep loading wood, iron stove. It's like 15 degrees this morning. Keep loading wood. Keep loading wood. You go through so many, 20, 30, 40 pieces sometimes a day. It's horrible. It's horrible. These systems are so much better. But anyway. Okay, let me find you another graphic. Hope that was helpful. Okay, here's a good video I paused that has a good side shot, similar to the graphic we just looked at for Ondol. Here's the firebox, very large firebox. I will show you one under construction before I end this video. Then there's a little bit of a squeeze here. It's not a rocket stove port, but the principle could be similar. It could create a bit of speed temporarily for the hot gases while the ash drops here. It's probably pretty ingenious. But it's not, again, it's not like some thin rocket stove port. It might work the same, but this whole system is much, much bigger. Maybe we can try to get a look at that later. It'd be like, 1 foot by 2 or 3 foot. It would be big, but it's not just completely open. It chokes it down a bit. Then, of course, the living room or the floor of the entire house would be here. Some Ondol systems, I guess, run under the entire house of a Korean house if it's a smaller house. There's that lip is more pronounced. It's a half circle lip, guys. Here where my cursor is. It's more pronounced in other graphics, and that also might create a bit of speed temporarily as everything rolls over. Then you have the slight, again, your hot gases and flame underneath the flooring, and then you have a slight incline. Now, in a lot of the construction of the modern Ondols, well, modern, that's an oxymoron, right? But when they make them today, they don't seem too concerned with this increasing the height of it, which narrows the channel. Maybe we can ponder why that is. Then on the back end in some of the graphics, this half circle lip is usually a little bit larger and more pronounced. In some graphics, it's called a wind blocker, because here's your chimney. You definitely would want to put a damper in if you're not using this thing for 4 or 5 months, and you still would want to put a damper in because cold air is going to flow down here and get right under here and cool the entire house down. At some point, this needs a damper. You could slide a metal plate across, like we saw what that guy did with the Gloria. The reason he did that with the Gloria is, again, if it's cold, you're not burning it for 2 days, cold air is going to funnel down here, and the system is actually going to make your house colder than if the system doesn't exist. But when you push that damper across, you want to make sure there's nothing burning here. Again, your carbon monoxide, your poor family out. So then there's usually this, well, I don't think this is not necessary in the design, this horizontal run. You just have to clear the wall of the house would be here. So the chimney and Ondol system is on the outside of the house. It's not like a design element to do this 2-foot horizontal thin run. It just has to do the horizontal run to find the chimney, because this is just the wall of the house, if you see what I'm saying. So this is a good graphic, and we'll find a couple more images and wrap it up. Okay, guys, I don't know exactly what we're going to find. I'll play this video. We'll look at it together. I'll pause it. I'm going to jump around a lot. It might be very rough. I'm sorry for that. Here, I just wanted to show you the construction of the firebox for the Ondol system and how large it is, how deep it is. They could get 7, 8 big logs in here, no doubt about it. So let me jump around. Okay, this is a good view. Putting the door in. Look how big the firebox is, but it makes sense. You gotta have a lot of energy and heat to heat an entire house and have the entire thermal mass of a house absorb the heat. Again, probably only burned twice a day, 2 times. That's all the Russians typically burn their stoves, and the thermal mass holds for 6, 8, 10, or 12 hours, depending how, the more thermal mass, the more it can hold for even more than 12 to 14 hours. So the most thermal mass is going to be in a Korean Ondol system, much more than a Russian stove. So let me skip ahead. Making the firebox, let me go back. The door of the firebox. And the rest of it, I mean, really is not made at all yet. Oh, that's nice. Some measurements. 40 centimeters. 40 centimeters to the back. That's it. Well, I'm no expert. I only understand inches as an American. So let's bounce ahead here. I don't know if he's working on the other side. Is this the chimney? There's the firebox. Yeah, he's working. That's the chimney, and then he still has to create the whole channel system. The firebox is always lower, always dug down into the dirt, a foot or two lower. has to be lower because the initial burn has to come up, or it's, maybe it's needed to create draft. All right, guys, this is a lot of tedious little work here. Let me skip around and see if we can get some information we can use. Doing this on the fly, he's making it with cinder blocks. I've seen this where that sometimes, guys, you think, oh, he's building the channel. He's building the support for the channel. The cinder block is not the channel for the hot gases. The support for the channel has to mimic the same exact design as the channel. So they'll do the support like this, then they'll fill it in with concrete and dirt, and then do the channels on top. So this is just basically like a foundation for a basement, creating the foundation for the Ondol system. And of course, here's your firebox. He's going to have a series of channels here. Not here. No, this is not a channel. Again, this is just support for channel. And the chimney will be here on the other side. And let's see, maybe there's another video. Yeah, throughout the whole system, they'll place these giant tiles over top. And then the floor, they'll do another layer. They might do another layer of like cob or clay. And then they'll do the tiles in the kitchen or the living room that you'll actually walk on. Okay, guys, I found the next video from the same channel. It's the same guy. I'm going to jump around a lot. I'm not sure what we'll find here. Placing those they always place those big concrete type tiles over top of the channel system. And then there's still going to be several layers in terms of what you would consider a kitchen or a living room floor. So let me pause. But those channels look they don't look real high or tall at all compared to the other Ondol systems, where some of the channels are 1.5 to 2 feet tall. But again, I don't know exactly. I'm no expert at ancient Korean building stoves. I know stoves, but this is not my area of expertise. So let's just see what's going on here. With all these, they do use the big tiles. I mean, whether it be stone or a concrete type tile, always on the supports for the channels, always use these big tiles in terms of every one of these videos I've made. Double layer too. Put a double layer in, probably closer to the firebox. Let me skip around here, see if we can get any more information. I mean, there's got to be, 10,000 pounds of thermal mass, the heat touch. I mean, this thing, if you burn the crap out of this for 2 hours, it would hold heat for probably 24 hours. I mean, this is so much better than, North America. I mean, most people in North America have a fireplace. How horrible is that? It doesn't even heat anything. At least I have a wood stove. But that's still, an iron stove is terrible compared to systems like this. It's just clay, and he probably dug up just down the road or in his backyard. I don't think he's really, might be a little lime in there. There's probably nothing that cements up hard. You wouldn't need to with tiles that are 40 pounds each. That looks more like a traditional Ondol channel to me. It's big, it's deep, but those channels look larger. Well, they're wide though. See, they don't have to. If they're wide, they don't have to be real tall. And if they're real tall, again, he's gonna have to take many steps up to get into the house, because you have to live on top of this thing. They don't have the primitive technology that goes back thousands of years. They couldn't excavate. I mean, I guess they could, over time, but it's easier just to build everything up and live up in the air than to excavate everything out. Also, probably no chance if you live up high a bit, no chance of ever getting flooded out. So that's interesting. I don't know exactly what his channel system looks like, guys, but again, it's just a simple series of channels with red clay or shale brick that each brick, the idea is for the hot gases, smoke and flame, as long as the flame exists, to pass by equally each brick or each block. So the art in this is to heat everything up equally. If he did all this work and one channel or two channels gets all the heat and the other two channels don't, then that's the chimney side we're looking at there, guys. I'm not sure if they show him building the... Yeah, this is the last part. That's where it comes out on the other side. So if two channels don't heat up, it's like a waste. You really have to make sure. We'll talk about that some other time. The gases and hot gases, always, they have a mind of their own. They just will know how to get out. It just as quickly as possible. And if your channel system isn't right, half your channels go cold. It's just a big waste. So he's building his chimney system here. I'm not sure what that PVC pipe is for. That certainly is not going to hold up to too much heat, my friend. I have no idea. It might be, maybe it's just some sort of vent. Well, I hear what you're saying to me, Matt. There's no real, after it comes out this side, it's not that hot. I hear you. It could help with draft. It could be open in a way to help with draft. Always keep draft moving in the right direction, like the way, for toilets, they put the PVC little pipes on your roof and stuff, so that the draft always goes correctly and you don't stink your house up. But I'm no expert in that either. Even though there's a door here, someone may say, oh, he's making the firebox. No, the firebox is on the other side. There's a door here, likely the chimney's going to go on top for clean out. For ash piles up here, the whole system clogs. It's all for nothing. That's a clean out door. How do I get one of those Korean doors? I like that. Look at that. All right. Yeah, he's going to build the area for the chimney. There's on top. That's just a clean out door. He's going to make... Yeah, that he's putting a grid of rebar down so he can place his stainless steel chimney on top of, so it doesn't fall through. That's all. I'll probably pack the sides with cement or some sort of concrete. You can use any sort of cement here. It's just not that hot. Once it comes out the other side, the Russians say you have to maintain at least 120 degrees Celsius. You want to maintain 120 on the way out, so it has enough energy. If you flirt with just over 100 degrees or drop below 120 Celsius, it might not have the energy to get out, and the whole system stalls and backs up, and it's all for nothing. So that's the other thing. I mean, you have to have hot gases coming out because there has to be energy enough to rise up the chimney. That's the art of it too. If all that thermal mass sucks all the heat out of it, and the channels are too long, it'll back up your whole. It's all for nothing. Everything will have to be dug up. So my advice is always to err on the side of 150 degrees coming out Celsius the other side. Too hot, not having it too perfect where the mass has to absorb, because it's not worth playing around with. Always want your end system should if it's too hot, you lose heat up. You're just heating the air, as they say. But so what? It's better than, I wasn't born a Russian stove maker in Siberia. I'm going to err on the side of just making it too hot instead of trying to get it perfect. So he's back to the fire. You can see the chimney up there, guys, on the other side. And of course, now he has the small task of having to build a house on top of this. The stove is the first part. The stove is everything, and then the house goes on top of this. But he's got the structure. It's so solid around the sides. He just builds the walls up around that concrete block around the sides. And this is the way to do it. This is the way to do it. Wonder why, quote our ancestors, the 1700s, 1800s. They must have heard stories. Wonder why they just didn't do this in the United States or this. Again, it's not. I don't think it's that widespread in Spain. We looked at the Gloria. It's very widespread in Korea, but and it was a system. Again, the Romans did it. This is how you do Roman baths. This is all that Roman stuff. This is so it wasn't. Maybe the big oil companies snuffed it. The big oil companies snuffed it out. This isn't good for big oil. But anyway, I guess we'll wrap it up there, guys. So this was the Spanish Gloria system, the Korean Ondol system.